First thing that we need to do is become aware. We need to know our numbers. We need to know the rules. We need to know the bounds. We need to know where we're starting from, our benefits, all these things. Know where we're at. Get our head out of the sand, for crying out loud. And then we can start. Welcome to the Teacher Money Show, the podcast dedicated to helping teachers navigate your unique financial challenges and unlock your financial superpowers. I'm your host, Sean Morgan, a full-time educator and personal financial coach and speaker. And I'm here to help every teacher, whether you are a seasoned teacher looking for fresh insights or a new educator navigating your first paycheck, to have a richer wallet, classroom, and life. Before we begin, I want to remind everybody that I want to help you. If you are thinking about questions financially, if you are unsure where to go, if you would like help building a plan, then please reach out to me. We can have a 30-minute discovery call. I'm happy to, look at your situation, offer some feedback, and if you would like additional coaching, then we can talk about it then. I look forward to talking to you. I'm super excited. This is a milestone episode, 100 episodes. Very few podcasters get this far. Thank you so much for your support. We're going to do a special episode today as we celebrate this 100 episode milestone. We're going to look back at all of the guests that we've had. And we've had 67 guests on in 100 episodes, and they've all shared their number one tip for a richer wallet, classroom, and life. I figured it would be fun to look back at those and figure out, well, what were those tips? How can we bring these tips all together into a cohesive picture that's going to help us live a richer life and have a richer classroom and a richer wallet? So let's dive right on in. There are 8 different categories that these tips have all fallen into. We could probably, crunch more of them together, but I like these categories because it helps us see that there are different areas we can focus on to have a richer life. So the first category of our tips is know where you stand. Before you can get where you want to go, you have to know where you are. And we had a lot of great episodes where we talked about this. So Mrs. Black in episode 21 and Tanya Taylor in episode 56 both said, know your numbers. You have to know where you are right now with your numbers. Colleen Salco said, track your finances in episode 53. Mrs. Black, when I had her back on in episode 25, said, take your head out of the sand. So you have to know your numbers and you gotta, be willing to look at them. And then I liked episode 76 with Becca Andrews and episode 12 with Kelly DeRamsey, where they talked about looking underneath the hood, getting an idea of how things are working in your financial picture. And then understanding your credit score. That was just a recent episode with Mark Jenkins on episode 96. Making sure you know that is an important piece of getting started. Ryan Cruz, the teacher who said, I will be a multimillionaire, he said, learn the rules of the game on episode 60. And Matt Kimball stressed the idea of getting an education professionally and personally and just growing every single day. And that's, starting where you are and getting better. Bernadette Joy talked about understanding your retirement system and the benefits we have as teachers. You got to know what you have in your corner. But the real thing, the thing that really is just all around, was said in this area by Dara Albright in episode 87, Canwal Sarai in episode 65, Eric Krieger in episode 64, Dan Otter in episode 39, and Rob Phelan in episode 62 was be educated about money. Just take the time to learn about money. And if you can learn about how money works, then you can do all these other things to be able to progress and become richer in your life. So that is the first area of number one tip. Know where you stand. Be educated about your personal financial situation and about money in general, so that way you can make the next step, which is have a plan. Having a plan is absolutely essential. So both Mary Ann Sullivan and Stephanie Lyons both simply said, have a plan. That was their tip. They didn't really need to explain more than that. Stacy on episode 63 said, prioritize what's important to you. Jay Zigmont on episode 42 said, plan your life first, then your finances. Clifton Corbin on 68, Carl Fisk on 55, both said to be intentional. That's all about planning, knowing where you want to go. Miss Black on episode 16 and Stacy on episode 37 both said, think about your future self. You got to visualize where you want to be, have a plan to get there. And Brittany Roberts on episode 51 said something similar about knowing what you want your life to look like and having that be what you're aiming for. Jerry Bourne, just our last episode, episode 99, said, don't drift financially. You have to have a plan. You can't just allow the winds of life to take you where you want, where it wants you to go. Vince Schwarb on episode 48 said, keep your reasons in front of you. I like that visualization, your reasons, why you want, your why. That's what's going to drive you forward. And then Andrew Sadler on episode 43 said, be a steward over your money, be intentional with it, knowing where you want it to go instead of just deciding it's going to go here, there, or anywhere. That is the key here. So the whole idea here is simply find out what your values are. What do you want? What is your why? We've talked about this many, many times. And then place that front and center in your life and have a plan to get from where you are to where your why has been fulfilled. The way that we do that in general is with our third takeaway. Start early, start now, take action, invest, right? So our first thing is just start investing now, early. Do it now. Andrew Paulson, who's on the show twice, said that both times on episode 27 and 81. Even though he was talking about student loans, he's like, no, no, no. The key is to invest early. So I'm going to give an award to Andrew Paulson for saying the same thing 2 episodes, far apart from each other. He's been consistent. He's the only returning guest who consistently said the same number one tip, which I think is pretty cool. And it's just start investing now. Rashad Muhammad on episode 69 also encouraged us to start investing early. Sean Mullaney on episode 82 said, invest because investments are taxed lightly. So, not only do you get the benefit of growth, but you get the tax benefit. Rachel on episode 80 and Rose on episode 34 both talked about pushing out fear to just get started. Don't worry about the consequences of like, what if I invest in the wrong thing? Just start investing now. You can always adjust later. Eric McClary on episode 84 said, take action, overcome inertia. Don't just stay doing the thing you're doing now. Do something that's going to push you forward. Yaneli Espinal on episode 77 said, automation is your friend. Use automation to get you where you want to go, whether that's in the classroom or in your investments. And then David Gorley, he talked about education on episode 86, but then he said, take action. Don't just sit in the education phase, take action next. And then we have Jeff Venables on episode 85 and 98. He said, spend less than you earned, invest the rest. And then he said, max out your retirement plan. So really close. So I'm going to give an honorable mention to Jeff for saying very similar things in both of his episodes, although Andrew just was dead on saying the same thing both times. So the idea here is that if you want to reach your goals, you need to invest early, you need to invest often, and you need to make it happen. Automation, those kinds of things are going to push you forward. Well, to have the money you need to invest, you need to do our fourth step, which is master the basics. Mastering the basics are huge. The Kinder Lady in episode 2 just said budget. That's what we need to do. Kim Butler recently in episode 94 said save 25% of your income and don't put it in your checkings account. Just put it in that reservoir and then move it into your checkings. That is the key there. It's basically budgeting by other means. Jerry Bourne, in the first time we had him on episode 17, said control your money or it will control you. And then Mark on episode 57 said be disciplined with the habits that bring money into your life. These things are all just about mastering your budget, mastering your cash flow, keeping a low savings rate. This is the money that you're going to be able to use to then invest to reach your why. Okay, you were going slowly, further and further down into that the nesting doll or however you want to look at it. Like you have to do this and then you can do that and you can do that. Those things are all hugely important. So spend less than you earn, save automatically, keep the cash flow going where you want it to be. These things are huge. Well, if you're going to budget and you're going to stay within your budget, you've got to do our next thing, which is our fifth grouping of top tips is frugality, contentment, and minimizing lifestyle creep. So on episode 22, Jeremy Keel said the happiness is wanting less, and Austin Booley on episode 49 talked about how if you can want less, and just realize that your investments don't have to be huge to retire. You can just live a more satisfied life by being content with where you're at. Mason Gomes said, just be content with the things in life that are little. Like he talks about going on a walk or playing a game with his wife. Those things make him happy. Instead of wanting to spend, he just spends the time on things that make him happy that are free. And then, avoiding lifestyle creep is a huge part of that. Joanne Kaminsky on episode 9 said, don't overspend, prioritize value over, just spending for the sake of spending. And then Todd Christensen talked about generosity and paying yourself first. I love this idea. Just, pay yourself first, put that money aside, live a frugal lifestyle. All these things are bringing us to the point of keeping that lifestyle creep low, being content with where we're at. So that way we don't feel like we have to spend beyond our budget. But of course, our sixth takeaway tells us, well, what if we want to spend more? What if we aren't really content where we're at because we want to go experience more from this world that we're in? Well, that's where growing your income, side hustles, and maximizing earnings comes into play. So on episode 14, Benita Gordon said, find what you're good at and make money from it. Erica Terry said, build a business around what you love. Same idea on episode 13. Daniel Villarreal said, learn from every job and carry that forward. And as you do that, it'll compound on itself and you'll get better and better and better, which will lead to higher earning potential. And Joel Allen on episode 67 talked about not selling yourself short, taking risks, because risks are what are going to have those greater rewards. If you remember, he had this wrestling camp that he started, which went from, a small thing to now making more than his day job as a teacher. And then Justin Brownwoods on episode 26 said to value yourself. Remember that you inherently have value and don't sell yourself short in that way. And make sure that you are getting the earnings from that value and not undervaluing yourself. That is absolutely key. And the thing is, if you are going to, lean far into the side hustle, work hard realm, you got to remember our seventh takeaway, which is your well-being, your balance, and your love of your profession. So these things all kind of come together with our number one, the thing that was said more than anything else as a number one tip is balance work and life and don't take your work home with you. Haley Brownwoods on episode 26 said that. Christina Cardoza on episode 36 said that. Rochelle Tyler on episode 5 and Bree on episode 52. All of them said balance, work, and life. Those things are huge because you don't want to lean too far into work and then miss out on life. But if you lean too far into life, you won't be able to reach your goals for the future. So both of those things need to stay in balance. And some things that you can do to do that. Find the joy in teaching. Chantel Mitchell on episode 92 talked about how awesome it is to teach. And finding that joy will allow you to have a more balanced life in general because your work will be less stressful. You won't feel like you have to do things to de-stress so much, and you'll be able to just have a more rich life in that way. I loved Andrew. He was so specific on episode 75. Andrew Hallam, the millionaire teacher, said, sleep more, lower screen time, see friends and family, right? Just those are the things that you can have that more balanced life piece because we tend to, cut sleep. We tend to just be on the screen all the time. But friends and family connection, those are the things that really give us a more balanced life. Gwen Geyer on episode 10 said, find your tribe, find people that are going to energize you. That is the type of thing that's going to support your life, but also might support your work because you are able to work together towards reaching those goals. Larry Sprung on episode 31 connected mental health, physical health, and financial health. You need to keep all three of those things in balance or your life will just go askew. So remembering that is huge. Brittany Flammer on episode 95 said your net worth is not your worth. Love that. Remembering that it's not just about getting the number higher and higher and higher. It's about keeping your worth in perspective and then just, letting that slowly accumulate. Don't let those things get out of balance. Hillary Gale in episode 29 said, listen to your inner voice. Don't be contrary to that conscience of yours because it will throw your life out of balance. Eric McClary on episode 30 said, find joy in life now. Don't, go through life, grinding and pushing and working and then miss life along the way. And then I loved this. Ray Tran on episode 44 said, prioritize yourself. And how many times have we said that? Teachers, stop prioritizing other things over you. You as a human being matter more than anything else that could be coming down the pipeline that is a requirement on your time, your attention, your finances. You need to take care of yourself first. Now, it can be hard to prioritize the right things. It can be hard to choose those right paths. It can be hard to believe that any of this is even possible. And that comes down to the eighth piece, which is your mindset. We've got to have our mindset right. Mindset is one of the things we don't talk about enough. I mean, the whole episodes with Matt Kimball were all about mindset. So I would definitely look there to start with mindset. Even though his final takeaway was just like educate yourself, the mindset piece was what we were talking about that whole time. David Delisle in episode 18, even though we were talking about the awesome stuff, he said, no, no, no. Mindset is where you start. Mindset is everything. Bree Thompson on episode 35 said it'd be the embodiment of the kind of person who succeeds financially. This idea of like visualizing who you want to be, the life you want to live, and then acting like it. But then on episode 4, she said, disconnect fear from money. So this is taking that negative piece of mindset and disconnecting it from money. Like, we don't need to be afraid anymore. And then doing the positive side as well. So I'm going to give another honorable mention to Bree for having two sides of the same coin as her number one tip, even though she didn't say the exact same thing like Andrew did. So those are it. I mean, we just blew through those pretty quickly, but those are the top takeaways from 100 episodes. And I just want to boil them down for you. I want to get the basics out here for us to understand what we need to do. So the first thing that we need to do is become aware. We need to know our numbers. We need to know the rules. We need to know the bounds. We need to know where we're starting from, our benefits, all these things. Know where we're at. Get our head out of the sand for crying out loud. And then we can start. The second step is to be intentional, build a plan, align your values and your future goals, and then look at the steps. Okay, this is where I want to be. What are the steps that will get me there? And you walk backwards until you know exactly where you need to be and what you need to do to get there. Number three is then take action on that. You know where you are, you know where you want to be, you know what the steps are. Take action, start early, invest now, automate it all, make sure it happens. Taking action is the key. Number four is control. You've got to control those actions. You've got to control what you're doing so that way you can get there. Master your cash flow, live a simple life, spend less than you earn. Those things are key. Number five is your mindset. Think long term, feel confident, uh, be a steward of your money instead of a spender of your money. Those things are going to help you maintain that control. You also need to have your income grow. I know how I talk a lot about income doesn't matter, but it does. It just doesn't matter as much as controlling your money so that way you keep more of it. But grow your income. And the faster you grow that, the faster you can widen that gap between what you spend and what you earn, the more you can invest and the better you'll be able to control your life and obtain financial freedom. And then balance. Remembering that balance is so important. You've got to live a more balanced life. Protect your mental, physical, and your financial well-being. So that way you can be there for what really matters, which is your relationships with others. So these things matter, relationships matter most because that is what you're trying to balance really, is spending time with those you love. Because all of that leads to living a richer life. Yes, we talk about a richer wallet. Yes, we talk about a richer classroom, but truly, truly the goal is to live a richer life. And I know that if you follow these top tips, I know it was like drinking from a fire hose this whole episode, but if you can follow this roadmap that we've laid out, if you can create the life that you want by visualizing it and creating those steps, controlling your finances and balancing these things, it's all these different pieces that you need to put into place. But as a teacher, you are definitely good at balancing little different details that need to get put into place. Then you will have the rich life and the rich wallet and the rich classroom that you desire and deserve. Because remember, as a teacher, you are already rich. Your wallet just needs to catch up. Remember, My next webinar, A Teacher's Financial PEMDAS for Guaranteed Success, is on December 9th at 7 p.m. Central Time. If you'd like to sign up, go to teachermoneyshow.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you there. If you would like help on your personal financial situation, go to teachermoneyshow.com/coaching and you'll be able to find different ways I can help you there. If you would like to participate in spreading this message of financial empowerment to teachers, I would encourage you to talk to your administrator or to your district level about going to SeanKMorgan.com to find more information there. And regardless of which one of those you need, please like and subscribe so that way we can spread the reach of this more. Leave a 5-star rating and review. That's going to help more teachers find this, and then turn around and tell a teacher friend. I really appreciate it.
The contents of this podcast are informational in nature and are not legal or tax advice, and neither I nor my guests are engaged in the provision of legal, tax, or any other advice. You should not act upon this information without first seeking appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional.